So my name is Fox, Sibil Fox Richardson. My friends call me Fox. And
I'm Rob. My friends call me Rob. But my real name is Robert Richardson.
And you are?
I'm Elise.
Elise.
Pleasure meeting you.
Sabiha.
Sabiha. Latoya.
Y'all came prepared. Y'all got blankets. We didn't get the memo.
So she didn't necessarily give me any directives on how she envisioned the Q&A, but I mean, I'm all about family and close-knit things. So if you just want to have a conversation about what you thought about the film, what moved you most, if you had a question of some sort that you wanted to ask, we're here for it. Okay, a couple.
Get ready. No. So I'm coming in Edwards because I actually have been since 6 years now, but I'm trying to help get out. It's been in like 28 years. But I know in the movie it said initially that I think it was 60 years without parole or probation, but then toward the end it was like, you were hoping he's going to be released. Can you kind of talk about like what changed from 60 years without? Since you're obviously out prior to 60 years?
Actually, when I was sentenced, all robbery carries at the time that I was sentenced, it carries a minimum of 5 years and a maximum of 99 years. The judge chose to use his wide range of discretion to sentence me as a first offender to 60 years. And that being said, under the Clinton crime bill, anyone that was sentenced to a violent crime after January 1st of 1997 would have to serve 85% of any sanctions that they had been given, assuming that it was something other than natural life. So with a 60-year sentence, I was scheduled to do 51 years before I would have ever become eligible for a probation, parole, or suspension sentence under the sentencing guidelines. However, once I got into the system, I started studying law because I realized, from talking to other guys who had been there, far longer than I had at the time that I arrived, they started teaching other men, the laws that they had learned. And I took a class, and in taking the class, I came to know that they had a law that was passed in the early 1990s, 1990 to be exact. That was considered Act 790, but it was for geriatric parole, and it made people that had been sentenced to who had been sentenced to 30 years or more, that in the event that you had served 20 years and reached the age of 45, that you would become eligible for parole consideration, at which point, when you see that part in the film, I was embarking on my 20th year of incarceration, and I was more than 45 years of age, and I had clearly a larger sentence than that of 30 years. But crazy enough, when my time had come, they decided that they wanted to reinterpret the law and who and how it applied. And as a result of it, I started fighting to have the law applied appropriately in my matter. But I had about 3 different avenues that I was fighting at one time. I was fighting in the district court, I was fighting in civil court, I was fighting through the legislature, and I had also filed for a clemency. And the clemency is what the mechanism that I ultimately was released under, and the governor signed my clemency in May of 2018, and 90 days later, September of 2018, I was released from prison under clemency. So that is ultimately how it is that I faced a 60-year sentence, but ended up getting out earlier than the 60 years that had been given to me.
Is that okay? Could you just talk a little bit about the choices you made kind of stylistically, if that's okay? You shot black and white, and I noticed the soundtrack maybe was one of your kids on the organ at one point, but then at certain key points there's soundtrack and no music, and
Yeah.
that's also powerful.
Yeah. Well, actually, Garrett Bradley is the director on this particular film. And so just speaking on what I know about the project and why it was shot in black and white, is it was actually just supposed to be a 15-minute op-doc on the New York Times website. It was supposed to be a short film on my family story. I met Garrett Bradley when she was shooting a short doc for the New York Times called Alone, and asked her at that point to solicit the New York Times for funding to tell our story. It went, got green lighted. We shot the footage, and then she shot it on black and white because she was already working on a black and white film. So it was actually not an aesthetic choice as much as it was a budget constraint. And so once we wrapped filming that short doc, Rob was released. At that point, I gave her my archive footage that I had shot over 21 years. And so for the consistency of the project, they turned the footage black and white that I had shot.
So I actually had a question about the archive, because it was, like, did you always intend to do some type of documentary, or were you just recording in the early days just for, like, footage to capture, like, family life? What was
One, I started filming in 1997 when Rob and I first married, because we had dated for 10 years off and on and had 3 children between us, and he hadn't asked me to marry him since I was 17 years old. I didn't accept at 17, and he would make me wait a very long time before he would ask again. And so I wanted to, it was like just our union was an act of resistance. And so since, everybody had doubted us, our parents didn't think we should have been together, and just all of the things, the social dynamics, all the bad choices we had made up until that point, we were finally rectifying things and establishing a foundation for ourselves and for our children. And so that was the excitement and the joy that I began filming with. And shortly thereafter, all of this beautifulness that we had put together with our own hands, we had torn it apart. And then my entrance into the criminal justice system as a college-educated woman who had her master's degree and was an adjunct instructor at the local university, I did not know that the system in America was as such, and in particular in Louisiana. So then I began to film, because one day I knew I was going to have to tell this story, because if it hadn't happened to me, I never would have believed it. So this body of work that spans over 21 years is my love offering. It is my submission to the Smithsonian to show what mass incarceration has done to Black and brown families in the United States, and the human resources that it has robbed our nation of, that we can never replace. Let me say that was well said. I felt it on my back that you thought it was good.
I was caught in the room.
I will say that effect for me with the archival footage and then the newer stuff is it just feels kind of timeless. In a way, like it doesn't stand forever. Especially because you consider back then, I mean, people had camcorders, but it wasn't like the failure of life like today.
Filmmaker magazine actually said, gave me credit for being the first that they know of to have done that.
Yeah, it's like to have done one.
We now know, we can call selfies.
So,
this might be a sensitive topic, but I'm curious about your mother and the proportion of her presence in the film vis-a-vis the proportion of her presence in life, in your family's life. Because I feel like there's something being unsaid in the film.
oh, she says it. She definitely says that. I think she said it best. Whenever I would see Sibil and Robert, they would be coming or going. And so because we had failed to do the traditional dating things, the courtship process. You come sit around a porch and have dinner with the family. We, like many other people, generations behind us, are failing at the courtship. And so since we're not doing the courtship process, then we don't know each other's families. And so we aren't able to, I remember, so we just did time 2, right? And so I'm excited about it. We've been touring the film circuit because the question that you asked for me was the premise as to why I thought it was so important to do a sequel to Time. Because it left so many questions unanswered, so many just basic questions about what happened, to give people an understanding that it felt a beautiful piece. I was sitting in the back like, wow, look at those shots. You know, look at those movements, and it just really takes it with you. But for us, being folks that are directly impacted, and we do this work for a living of bringing other people home, it was of the utmost essence for us to be able to tell not only what happened in Time that you didn't understand, but also what happened after Rob came home. And so, we showed a rough cut, a fine cut at UCLA, and a lady in the audience, she says, I do not care about your problem. She was an Asian lady, and in a very heavy Asian accent, she told us she didn't care about our problem because she couldn't relate. She couldn't fall in love with us. In the film, she didn't understand, you know, it's like being able to get people to see you, to understand you, to fall in love with you, and then they can understand and better receive your story. I forgot where I was going with that, but you got off point.
Yeah. So what's the transition, what has the transition been like for both of you, like now that you have the in-person family?
And how long has it been since the reunion?
6 years, September 20th of this year made 6 years that I've actually been home.
Baby boy just turned 18.
Right, so the transition in a lot of ways has been bittersweet. And I say bittersweet in the fact that, you know, the obvious that I'm home, so, you know, that's, of course, a sweet spot. But the bitter part is that you come to the realization of the damage that has been caused through long suffering. And as a result of it, I suffer from PTSD. I have anxiety issues because when you're in prison, they don't turn the lights out when it's bedtime, so I suffer from sleep deprivation. So most nights I don't get any more than maybe 3-4 hours worth of sleep before I'm wide awake again. I spend most of my days, you know, kind of in between what feels like sleep and reality because of the fact that I've been sleep deprived and I haven't figured out a way yet to fix it. You know, so all of those things are present. For the difference of when you have a person on one side of this experience that is longing to reunite her family so that she can enjoy intimacy and she can enjoy the confidence of having you know, a dual income in the household, where she can, you know, enjoy the confidence of having an added disciplinarian in the household. Those were things that Fox had been hopeful for. But then on the other side of the coin, when you've been sharing your bedroom with over 100 men, and you have more than 6,000 people concentrated in a small mass of land, and you share 4 showers with those same 100 men, and you have maybe 6 urinals that you share among each other. You have about 5 sinks, you have 1 TV, you have 2 telephones and 1 kiosk machine, 1 concession counter. Can you imagine mass confusion and the traffic jams that exist in a situation like that? So the last thing that you come home wanting is really a lot of people in what you've been trying to create as personal space for yourself. In prison, there's no such thing as personal space. And so when you come home, it's one of the things that you're hopeful to enjoy. And I was looking for personal space. So showering together was not necessarily something that was on the top of my hit list. Although for my wife, it was at the very top of her hit list. You know, so can you imagine like her wanting to shower with me and me wanting to say, get out of here. I've been waiting for years to be able to do this by myself. You know, and then trying to make the understanding or the leap between what she's been experiencing and what I've been experiencing. So, just those pieces have been quite challenging for our children. They have to figure out like what it's like. As my son Freedom probably did the best when he says that I had to figure out like what do fathers do.
Where do you put a father?
Like, so where do you put a father in a life where there's never been one? And so, just with those kind of things, trying to figure out how then do you parent in situations like these. For a long time I thought that, I was parenting from prison because I had visits, with my kids, with my wife, and the whole 9 yards. But the truth of the matter was I had to come to the realization soon while I was in prison that my role as a father in their life was much like that of a coach in athletic sports. Coaches are not in the ring, they're not on the court, they're not on the field, they're not a part of the hockey ring. They sit from the sideline and they yell orders, they give orders, they give direction, they give guidance, they give intel, and those kind of things. And those were the ways that fathering and parenting showed up in my life. I had to become a coach for my kids. So coming home and then now going from, say, coach to now trying to become father. It's a different task, and I realized that when you're in the household, that inside of the house you're more of a dad. When you're in prison, you have to become a father. Father's about the teaching, the nurturing, and those kind of things. Being a dad is about going to baseball games and functions, and those kind of things. Celebrating birthdays and the whole 9 yards. Fathering is something uniquely different.
Yeah, and I apologize if this has already been asked when I was running around. You said you're doing a lot of work right now to bring folks home. Can you talk a little bit more about what you're doing in that work?
So we are one hub of 40 hubs across the country doing a model that was created in Silicon Valley by an organization called Silicon Valley Debug. And the model is participatory defense, where we teach justice-involved families how to participate in their own defense. So like Ms. LaToya, who has a loved one that she's working to bring home, we work with families every Thursday in person and by Zoom here in New Orleans, and we are launching a hub in Shreveport where we meet with families every Thursday at 6 o'clock to go through their legal matters and see how it is that we can, through intervention, reduce as much harm as we possibly can from what harm that has already been done. And so we judge our success by how much time we save someone from serving in prison versus the amount of time that they have been sanctioned to serve. And so since the founding of our organization, 6 months after Rob came home from prison, April of 2019, we have saved over 3,500 years of time. That includes getting an act, a resolution in law that became Act 122 and gives parole opportunities to over 3,000 families who thought that their loved one was going to die in prison because they had no opportunity for parole and had been sentenced to 30 years or more. In addition to that, we also brought home the longest serving woman in the world, Gloria Dean Williams, better known as Mama Glow. She had served 52 years behind bars when we were able to get her home on clemency in 2022. Yeah, so that is the extent of our work, and our website is pdmnola.org. If you want to check us out, leave us a love offering, support the work. All the times we can't get out and do and be everything for everybody or support all of the causes, but we can spread ourselves around and drop a few breadcrumbs in places that we want to see grow. So thank you for considering our work. And thank you, Megan, for this amazing event and allowing us to share, be a part of the justice element in this as well as the art.
We have a book for sale out there in the lobby.
Yes, we have a book for sale time, The Untold Story of the Love That Held Us Together When Incarceration Kept Us Apart. It is a book published by Baker Publishing Company, which is a Christian-based company here in the U.S. And it tells of our faith walk through 21 years that brought about our family's restoration. And it is quite a ride. It is told in alternating voices. I write my part, Rob writes his part, and sometimes when I got lazy, I'd have Rob write my part too. I was like, I don't know, what did I say during that time? Well, put it down there, because I'm tired today. I never knew it took so much to write a book. And then, you know, the editor would be calling and saying, what we got? And I'd be like, Rob got his part. So, yeah, it's a beautiful piece, but I think just a lot of nuggets of how you get through difficulties. Our family's challenge was incarceration, and I hope that you all know we don't make light of the infraction that we caused in our society. We created harm at our own hands, not just harm to others, but harm to ourselves and to our own families. So we don't make light of that, but what we must also emphasize and spread light on is that to err is human, but to forgive is divine. And so we must forgive others. It is the only way that we can truly function and love freely ourselves. And so I'm just encouraging you all to consider not just societally those that have transgressed that need to be forgiven, but even maybe something that you've done on your own journey and at your own hands have caused harm to yourself, and you need to forgive yourself. That was one of the hard parts for Rob and I on this journey, was forgiving ourselves so that we could get our confidence back and move back forward in life.
And understanding too that when you speak about forgiveness, forgiveness does not necessarily mean that you pardon crimes or you pardon wrongdoing or you pardon transgressions. It's not to say that they go without sanction or they go without payment for wrongdoing. But at the same time, when we give out the kind of sentences that we give out, and they make no real
I'm gonna give you 9 life sentences. Ooh, that'll show him. Is it gonna be the 3rd life, the 4th life, or the 5th life that he really gets in?
Right. You know,
Are we cats?
So it's, just one of those kind of things. Just, throughout my journey, I've witnessed both. I've seen the truly incorrigible person, the person that even I, as a person that was incarcerated, said, you need to have your ass in pen. In fact, you need a little bit longer. But there were countless other men that I've also run into that I said that you never should have been here. You should have been in a drug treatment program. You should have been at an anger management program. There was some other alternative than this. This damages you irreparably. So just those types of things that, when we, render justice, that would be fair in that justice, that, we have some level of fundamental fairness, because our justice is not supposed to be just justice for victims. It's supposed to be justice for all. And that justice should fit.
This is not my comment. I think one of the most radical moments in the film are the archival footage showing young black boys have joyful moments. And innocent moments, given this like the immediate pictures of black youth. And I just hope more people get to see the film.
Well, please share it.
Yeah,
Get us
I
to
will.
El Paso. Let us come and screen and do a talk back. And get
Yeah.
people.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because in the second film, the sequel to this documentary, there's a statement that I make to that very point. And it says that whenever an oppressed people intentionally create moments of pleasure, it's considered an act of resistance. Pleasure is how slaves of yesterday resisted. They sung hymns and spirituals in the field. They played the ham bone, and they've done a number of things in their efforts to resist against the hardships that they were facing. And all too common, it has become a commonplace for blacks in this country to use pleasure as a way of resisting. So that But that is to that same point. So it's funny when you mentioned it. It made me think about the part in the second film where it was mentioned.
Well, we are Fox and Rob on all social media, and I would love to have you join us on the rest of our journey, because what you see here are future Nobel Peace Prize winners. So we're going to do so much to end mass incarceration in Louisiana. Just Louisiana. If we change Louisiana, we change the whole world. And so when we do, somebody's going to write to Switzerland and let them know about us. Yeah, I ain't worried about the $1 million. I just no, stop it. See, you're trying to get me in trouble. That's all right. I would have AI to see if you were pulling my leg. Thank you all so much for being with us. Yes, thank you.